Over to you, Rohit. You're going to be speaking on unhappiness post-refractive surgeries, algorithms to decode.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And thank you, Dityal, sir, for allowing me to present first.
No, always, no issues.
And these are my financial interests, but none of them will have an impact on my presentation today. The most important thing is we needed some guidelines on how refractive surgery impacts the whole aspects of the whole eye. Just not looking at just the dryness and just the glare and other things. So these are the major things which causes patients to be unhappy. I may have to rush through a few of them because of the time issues, but I'm going to divide my talk into unhappiness due to optics, pathological alterations, and I'll go back to this here, the ocular motility issue, the personality, and all of the above. This is how I'm going to do it. The first thing is all about the history and the clinical examination. Dry eye comes the foremost in this. And when we look at dry eye, it's not just the basic test, it also looks at how the tears impact your quality of vision. And this is something which we published where there is an optical quality of the tears, which we're able to pick up with the present day abrometers, the OCAS, Optical Quality Assessment System. A good tear film holds on very well in this green zone. A poor tear film keeps changing. This is your point spread function. At one shot, you know, if your multifocal lenses or your patient has got some premium surgery on your cornea, let's say laser surgery, and he keeps having this fluctuating visions, or you have this in the, especially in the dim and light, then you know that this is something which is going to have a troublesome time. So tear film is the first culprit. I call the phantoms of your vision. You don't see it, but it's always present to create problems. I don't want to go into the treatment. I'm sure it's going to be covered by somebody else. The pathological alterations of surgery, again, comes where you have to look for your tomographies and ocular aberrations. You can have an undercorrection, overcorrection, decentered ablations. These are the two examples of a good centration and a bad centration, and the quality of vision is there. For the understanding and for our basic teaching, we use this nomogram called the Deal nomogram for decentration, how we look at every aspect of decentration and how we apply laser if we have to treat it. The definition of decentration may differ. But when you look at the basic decentration, always the most important thing is just the topography should not get you scared about just because there's a decentration, we need to go and treat. Most of the times, however decented their corneas are, they don't actually need anything because they get neuroadapted. If they're having a complaint, rule out a dry eye. Contact lens testing is probably one of the most important thing, according to me, because the minute you put a rigid contact lens, if the symptoms improve, that means the problem is in the cornea. If the symptoms don't improve, then the problem is not in the cornea, it may be somewhere else in the top optical zone. That means you get to know exactly who is the culprit just with the contact lens. And if the patient is unhappy with the lenses, you can think about the laser, provided the contact lens improves the quality of vision. If there's no improvement, look for the lens. And if there is no problem in the lens, I'm not talking of just the slit lamp examination, I'm looking at the DLIs, the lens index, and the densitometry changes on the pentacams, all these things you can look for. If that is still normal, the problem is your motility. The motility is one of the most hidden. It's like cancer. You don't even know till it becomes hugely manifested. And when we started this clinic, we realized that how important is motility in our ocular examination. It's just not the squint. It's about how the eyes respond to a particular stress. And if there is a lens-based procedure to be done, then you can consider doing a laser correction on the cornea and then doing the procedure. This is what we follow in our system, and this worked out very well. And we are just trying to compile everything to make it into a paper at some point of time. And this is what I said about the contact lens trial. And look for the DLI and other changes. Towards red is abnormal. Towards green, the DLI means it's normal. It's a very important test in practice, especially when they suddenly come to you with glare and halos. Ocular motility is one of the most important things, especially now. Every patient who comes in with regression last 1 year has been having an issue with ocular motility. This is one thing I want to tell all the listeners. Because of lockdown, because of staying at home, because of mask, because of multiple things, the culprit is not your cornea. If you do an examination of aberrations, your cornea will be perfect. It's your internal aberration. So we call it the huge masquerade. If anybody is interested, this is a very nice paper written by pediatric ophthalmologists and refractive surgeons about integrating the binocular assessment. We call it non-strabismic assessment of the ocular motility. And this is the most important thing. And you have to rule out all these changes. We give office space. Nowadays, in these circumstances in lockdown, I give all of them immediately after surgery. I tell them that you need a physiotherapy after any surgery. Ocular motility also needs physiotherapy, especially when you're working 10, 14 hours at home without going out. This is something, and most of them come to you with regression. Personality plays a very important role. This is something we published in JCRS, how personalities are. It is a little difficult in Indian context to go into the assessment of a personality, but if you can, a lot of seniors like Tityal sir or Ramurthy sir, when you look at a patient, they will probably pick up. But a lot of youngsters, you can give them, these personality scores are quite easy, and you can give them a score and you know where you stand. The challenge today is a mix of all of them. To summarize it, look for decentration, look for epithelial mapping. This is where unhappiness is, a good and a bad epithelial maps. And axial length changes over time. Look for regression or pseudo-regression, densitometry, if it's normal or abnormal, and then if it's cataract treated. But remember, 99% of regression coming during this time is all pseudo-regression. And you can treat it, and most of the, even up to -3, you can give them. They can, after a 1 month of office-based therapy, they come back to complete normal. You don't need to lift the flap. You don't need to worry about it. I end this presentation, and thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Rohit. Wonderful as usual. I really liked your deal protocol. It's ideal. And what I would conclude in what you have said is that before you label anybody as a psychosomatic cause for their discomfort, it's better that you first rule out everything that can cause, and Rohit has really very nicely pointed out what all can be going wrong for a person to be 20/20 unhappy after a refractive surgery or after any surgery for that matter. So if you can't do it by yourself because you don't have all the possibilities, it's a good idea to take help of your colleagues, your seniors, anybody who can help you out before labeling a person as a psychotic person. So that's something which is very important. Most of us feel that if the person is reading 20/20, then this is all their psychological problem and not really a real one. So if there is a real problem, it helps to cure that.
If I just add one line before for what you said, out of say around 100 odd patients we see who come with glare halos in the last 1 year, 100 on 100 have been ocular motility issues. 100 on 100, we have given them back the same refractive error what they were 1 year back with 0 without lifting the flap or doing anything. The amount of ocular motility epidemic because of lockdown is so much. If you do an eye trace on them, you see the cornea being a point dot and the lens having huge amount of spherical aberration. Classic picture of accommodative insufficiency or convergence issues.
Yeah, even normal people are coming with so much of astigmatism.
Just one quick comment, Rohit. I mean, you covered most aspects you normally dwell on. What about vitamin D? That's something that's easily treatable. Does it have a role in patients being unhappy subsequent to the surgery?
It's a very interesting question. Reason being, sir, why do people develop sudden ocular motility changes? Is this the area of discomfort in your brain is very closely linked to all your accommodative status. Vitamin D changes your ocular surface. There is discomfort. There is change in your mood. mood perception, your feeling of unpleasantness is very close to the area in the brain which controls your movement of your accommodation and sympathetic change. So that is the reason type A personalities are the one who are more of accommodative spasms, because the whole the feel good area is very close to that. And this is what I learned from Annette Galler presentation. She does a lot of work on neuropathic pain. And vitamin D gives you two things. One is a healthy ocular surface. Second is it makes you feel good. When you're very low on vitamin D, your mood swings are very high.
Is it also true for vitamin B12?
Vitamin B12, more of pain and those kind of changes. But if you're looking at hugely mood swings, and I would say accommodative changes, it's more of vitamin D.
And do you find any difference in the different type of refractive techniques used for correction?
No, ma'am. It's just the change of any change of perceptions or feel of change could bring in the change, bring in that spasm. It's a sympathetic overactivity. There's a term called sympathetic overtone. That means some people have a huge amount of sympathetic overactivity, even though they look normal. And we use different words like type A and other things. But like Sir said, vitamin D is a trigger.
And can it also happen with just a change of glasses?
This can happen with change of glasses. It can happen with sometimes you see that some PRK patients heal one day later. And that stress itself makes them to go into the spasm. And when you remove the contact lens, you see that the refractive error is -2. And the patient say, I'm not seeing. That because the stress of anything can make into a spasm.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just one question. Can cycloplegics work?
No, ma'am. Cycloplegic doesn't work. Cycloplegic doesn't work. You need to invest on a good physiotherapy for the eyes, we call it. Like I said, in my consent form, I write all that you have to go for this exercises. And most of those patients whom we are weak, we give them just after the surgery. It improves the depth very quickly.